There's so little fraud in the food stamps program. Where should our lawmakers be looking?
Right. I mean, so this article was looking at part of the spending that was included in the Farm Bill, and the Farm Bill funds both nutrition and agricultural programs. And so if you actually look on the agricultural side of that funding, there's a program, the Federal Crop Insurance Program, that actually is far more prone to fraud than food stamps. And there's a whole variety of the different sources of that fraud. I'll just cite one of them, which I think is one of the most blatant ones. And there's actually a report that the GAO came out with last year talking about this program. And so basically taxpayers subsidize premiums for this program. And so when there are farmers that are taking out claims that are more frequent or higher than other farmers in the area, the risk management agency is supposed to notify the farmers they're going to be investigated. But actually this GAO report found that actually about a quarter of those inspections of potential fraud don't even take place, which I think is a pretty high number. And you can imagine, I try to draw the parallel, you think about the Food and Nutrition Service, which is supposed to follow up on potential cases of food stamp fraud. You can imagine just the outcry of, a quarter of those cases of potential fraud not being followed up on. So that's one big area. And there's whole issues of incentive problems that's built into the program, the crop insurance program, that incentivizes fraud.
Well, it's the exact problems that they say exist in the food stamps program. That the incentive is for fraud, not for work. That there are people that are perfectly healthy, healthy-bodied workers who should be working. Can you imagine if we told the corporation that they could have, all the corporate welfare that they wanted as long as they, lowballed the price of their products? So,
right.
We've got these folks using SNAP that we're telling them they have to be part of a work service program at like a government facility, where in reality they'll end up making like $2 an hour. Imagine if a Democrat proposed legislation that said a corporation could have the subsidy for the products that they're making, but that they had to sell them for 20 cents.
Right. I mean, people have said, critics of the crop insurance program and farm subsidies in general will point out, the crop insurance program is not your typical insurance program. It's basically, it effectively functions as a subsidy. It's as somebody who I spoke to who's a critic of the program at Iowa State, a farm policy expert, is, the culture of the program is a social program to benefit farmers. It's basically a subsidy. So there's not, it's a subsidy, and there's not incentives to look for whether or not there's fraud.